Do you ever forget English words just after learning them? You are not alone. Many learners memorize words, but hours or even days later, they vanish from memory. It can be frustrating, especially when you want to speak confidently. This is the story of Leo, a young English learner who struggled to remember words. Every day he studied vocabulary lists, repeated words, and tried to use them in sentences. But in real conversations, he often paused, searching for words, forgetting even the simplest expressions. Leo wanted a solution. He wanted a method that would help him remember English words forever, not just for a test, not just for a day, but permanently. One evening, while reading a book in English, he realized something important. Memorization alone wasn't enough. Words needed to be connected to life, to context, to real thoughts. Words needed a story, a habit, and a mind trained to think in English. This story will follow Leo's journey. You'll see the methods he used, the habits he developed, and the small, consistent actions that helped him never forget English words again. By the end, you'll learn how to make vocabulary stick naturally without stress or endless memorization. Leo's struggle was common. Every morning he opened his English notebook. Lists of words filled the pages. Curious, adventure, amazing, challenge, improve, opportunity. He wrote them down, repeated them aloud, and even tried to memorize their meanings. At school, he read books and highlighted new words. Online, he watched videos and paused every few seconds to write new vocabulary in his notebook. Despite all his effort, something felt wrong. When speaking with friends or teachers, Leo froze. He wanted to say, I felt curious about the museum, but he ended up saying, I, uh, interested museum, He felt embarrassed. He asked himself, why can't I remember words when I need them? At first, Leo blamed himself. Maybe his memory wasn't good enough. Maybe English was too hard. But the truth was different. His brain had no system for storing words long term. Memorization without context or daily use was like pouring water into a bucket with holes. Words came in, but they slipped away. Then Leo discovered something powerful. Memory works when words are connected to life, to emotions, and to consistent habits. He realized that to never forget words, he needed a complete approach. The first step Leo took was to make words personal. Instead of memorizing adventure as just a word, he connected it to his life. He wrote, tomorrow I will have an adventure in the park. Every time he repeated the sentence, his brain linked the word adventure with his own experience. He did the same with curious. I am curious about learning a new language. And with amazing, the movie I watched yesterday was amazing. Making words personal had two effects: memory retention. When words are linked to your experiences, your brain stores them naturally. Motivation. Learning became enjoyable because words were not abstract. They were part of life. Leo began creating small stories around each word. The word challenge became, today I took on a small challenge, learning 5 new words and using them in sentences. He smiled as he read his sentences aloud. Learning was no longer boring. Each word felt alive. Leo's next step was to use new words in sentences. He realized memorizing isolated words was not enough. Context was key. For example, instead of just learning curious, he built sentences. I felt curious about the History Museum. She is curious about science. For amazing, the sunset today was amazing. I had an amazing lunch with my friends. Using words in sentences had a huge benefit. Leo's brain learned how to use the word in real conversation. Instead of translating or pausing, He could recall sentences automatically. He also noticed something exciting. When he read books or listened to videos, he recognized words he already used in sentences. The connection strengthened. His vocabulary became living words, not just words on paper. Leo then started thinking in English all day, while brushing his teeth. I am brushing my teeth. The water is cold while walking to school. The sun is shining. Birds are singing while eating breakfast. I am drinking tea. The toast is warm. At first, it felt strange. Thoughts in his native language were automatic. But with practice, English became the natural language of thought. Thinking in English changed everything. Words came to mind without translation. Vocabulary stored in memory became active. Sentences flowed naturally. Conversations no longer felt stressful. Leo added a repetition system. He didn't rely on cramming. Instead, he used spaced repetition. He reviewed words after 1 day, 3 days, 7 days, and 14 days. Each time the word became stronger in memory. He also read his sentences aloud every morning. Even small daily habits had an enormous effect. Words that used to vanish now stayed in long-term memory. The combination of context, personal connection, sentences, and repetition created a powerful memory network. Finally, Leo started using words in real conversations. With friends online, I am curious about your weekend. In cafes, this cake is amazing. Writing short messages. I took a small challenge today and learned new words. Every real-life use reinforced memory. Words became tools for communication, not just vocabulary lists. Leo noticed something remarkable. The more he used words, the less effort it took to recall them. His brain began thinking in English automatically, connecting meaning, context, and experience. 3 months later, Leo's English had transformed. Words no longer vanished from memory. Conversations were smoother. Sentences came naturally, and learning was fun. He realized the most important lesson. Memorization alone doesn't work. Connection, context, thinking, repetition, and real-life use create lasting vocabulary. You can do the same. Start small, create sentences, think in English, review regularly, and use words in life. Consistency matters more than perfection. Remember, every word you learn is a step closer to fluency. With the right approach, you will never forget English words again.